Russia's invasion of Ukraine is only one of the geopolitical developments that could potentially throw up a new global order if it hasn't already. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Our focus today is on the SCO summit in Samarkand, the Shanghai Cooperation Countries Organization, of course, where we are seeing Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping already present, and the Prime Minister on his way to Samarkand. All of this comes as Ukraine has taken decisive advantages in a war that was triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. All of this, of course, is happening as India fumes over the upgradation of the F-16 program of Pakistan by the United States of America. So we need to sit back, look at the SCO summit, and actually join all the dots. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is actually rooted perhaps in an anti Western narrative, one in which India may not want to take part. But remember, this is a time, as I mentioned, when India is disappointed and somewhat angry with the Biden administration and the United States of America. The Ukraine war, India continuing to remain an importer of Russian oil, now displacing China as the second largest importer, the anger with the United States of America, and of course, the very intriguing transfer of ammunition to Ukraine by the Pakistan army. A lot to unpack here as we ask whether the SCO summit will throw up a new global order. Let's introduce our experts today. Joining us from Kyiv in Ukraine, we're pleased to welcome Oleksandra Matviichuk, who's a human rights advocate. It's great to see you again, ma'am. Also joining us, veteran diplomat, Ambassador Dilip Sinha. Also joining us, Lieutenant General Satish, who's of course a military veteran and the former chief of the IDS. And also joining us, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, also a veteran diplomat. So great to see all of you. And let me ask Ambassador Sinha, if you will, to step back and actually join these dots. Is it possible to join them? There's so much happening simultaneously. There's India's anger publicly expressed now by the defense minister with the United States of America. There is Ukraine actually stealing an advantage in its battle with Russia. There is General Bajwa intriguingly transferring Pakistani ammunition to Ukraine, even while its Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif meets with Vladimir Putin. There is India's own relative disengagement that has taken place with China and Eastern Ladakh. How do we connect these dots? Do we connect these dots?
I don't think you can connect these dots, Barkha. These are all very contradictory events that are taking place right now. It's a very tense world we live in right now. The Ukraine war has reached a point where Ukraine is actually pushing Russia back, which means that you never know when Putin will lose his cool and start further bombardment. We know what kind of power Russia has, and if it opens up with that kind of power, then we are looking at a very conflagrated war. We have China, which has been threatening Taiwan. We have had our defense minister go to Japan for the 2+2 dialogue, where Japan is increasing its defense expenditure. Coming to Pakistan, yes, the US has agreed to upgrade aircraft. Just when we thought that America had lost interest in in Pakistan because it had withdrawn from Afghanistan, you find America coming back in such a big way in Pakistan. Now, we don't know whether that is a signal to India or it's a signal to Pakistan or to Afghanistan. But whatever it is something that's very uncomfortable to us. And it also gives a lot of mileage and strength to our anti-American people forces in India. There are so many of them here. And they will start pointing at fingers at America. So in this kind of a situation, we are trying to exercise our strategic autonomy by this policy of multi-alignment, which means trying to go with the Western Bloc as well as with the Eastern Bloc. And but at this tense time when tempers are running high, and we don't know if anybody has the patience for this kind of neutral politics, for us to perhaps to go so aggressively at our multi-alignment, what impact it will have on the global situation and our standing with each of the two groups is very difficult to understand. China has made one small gesture of withdrawing from PP15, that Galwan, but then there are so many other places where China continues to be present, even advanced in the last 2 years, where it has not withdrawn from. And the additional fact that, after all, before this confrontation, China had moved as many as 2 divisions onto the LAC in violation of all our bilateral agreements. So it's a very
Yeah.
difficult situation, a very fluid situation at the moment.
But if you look at the imminent meetings at the SEO summit, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the meeting with Vladimir Putin is now confirmed. It's been confirmed by the Russian side. Xi Jinping, we don't know. Shehbaz Sharif, the Pakistani is unlikely. But the other countries, in particular Russia and China, are going to express themselves in particular in a kind of anti-Western context. Do you think India can or will join that context, Ambassador Sinha, given the anger over the modernization of the F-16s, the $450 million deal or payout rather by the Biden administration to Pakistan?
Well, there's no way we can share this kind of worldview that Russia and China are trying to express today of aggression. We have abstained from all resolutions in the Security Council on Russia, but we cannot possibly support Russian aggression or support China and its aggression towards Taiwan. So the fact that we are there at the SCO is itself something that needs to be explained and thought over. But to go there and join the consensus.
Are you saying that we shouldn't have we needn't have attended this summit?
Well, frankly, as I mentioned, yeah, if we want to play neutral at the present moment in these tense environments, then it's best to lie back a little, to withhold, rather than to go aggressively aligning ourselves with both sides and creating confusion in both minds. Now, what America is doing with Pakistan is absolutely wrong, but at the same time, what China is doing is not right either. So, if we go into the dragon's den and then try and cozy up to the dragon, that sends a message that is very difficult for our own soldiers on the front. We have General Dua with us. He'll perhaps explain this better. What are we doing over there in this
Yeah.
in this organization?
So in a way, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, Ambassador Dilip Sinha is arguing that this sort of walking the diplomatic tightrope, which by definition is what diplomats have to do, but in this particular case, that kind of multilateralism, multi-alignment, some have called it all alignment, from non-alignment to all alignment, is no longer working. Especially with our position on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where actually even on the battlefield, that the ground seems to be shifting, and India perhaps is some would argue has not shifted swiftly enough with it. Ambassador Sinha even saying, hey, maybe we needn't have attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, otherwise known as the SCO summit. Your take, sir?
Well, I'm delighted to have a completely different view, just about 180 degrees from my good friend Dilip. SEO for us was relevant. Today it is even more relevant. SEO, we had been wanting to join. We are happy to join, and it is very important that Prime Minister is there for a variety of reasons. Just because there are countries which have anti-West orientation does not mean that India will be joining that chorus. India's credentials are very well known. India has a very good relationship with the West, particularly with the US. It is growing, and so in fact, the US and the Western world should welcome, if anybody knows the 101 of diplomacy, they will be welcoming India's presence, because we are a voice of moderation, we are a voice of balance. For us, relationship with the Central Asian region is very important. For us, relationship with Russia, other countries are important, and with China, today we have a contentious issue, and we certainly will not be wanting to talk to China till the aggression is vacated. But we have to find a modus vivendi with China. China is our neighbor. It is a reality. We cannot wish it away, and we cannot live in contention forever. So I think that it is very important that we are there, and we will play the role that we play always. Barkha, if I may, I would like to comment also on the F-16.
Yes, I was just going to ask you that in the context of what's happening, Ambassador Prakash, at the SEO with Russia and China, and the expressed anger over the F-16's transfer of technology and upgradation by Biden's government to Pakistan, there will be, as Ambassador Dilip Sinha said, an anti-American sort of cynicism. And how does India balance that with Russia and China, and what's happening with them?
Well,
And
again, I think that if there is anger, it is more with the Indian media. If there is somebody is losing sleep, I think it's more the Indian media and the strategic community in India. I think that the government of India is sleeping is very has no difficulty kind of dealing with that. Yes, we have expressed concern. It is spot on. We are unhappy. That we have a right to be unhappy. But let us take a closer look. Let's there be a reality check. Is it directed at India? I would say no. It is not directed at India. Is it a game changer for India? It is not. Why has US done it? For the simple reason it is in US's strategic interest. When we say that we are not allies, we are partners, and we have a strategic autonomy of decision making, I mean, is it a one-sided thing? Why can't US assert its right of strategic autonomy? I mean, they are out of Afghanistan. They have a strong interest in Afghanistan, and they have an old relationship with Pakistan. Now, Pakistan is a country which is willing to do the American bidding. It has been a gun for hire. It is a country which has whose potential of mischief is very high. So yes, it is in US's interest to engage with Pakistan. And what have they done? $450 million worth of equipment and things to upgrade F-16s. The deal went back in 1981. Why cannot US do that? I don't like it, but well, US does not like India's relationship with Russia. Are we going to change that? So
yeah.
I think we are mature enough to. If I was a fly in the wall, Barkha, I would dare say that the conversation there was a hypothetical phone call between Dr. Jaishankar and Lincoln, and he said, "Look, we are going to send this $450 million worth of assistance." Dr. Jaishankar would have said, "We are going to protest." Said, "Very good. Let's grab a cup of coffee together." I mean, that's how relationship is
Yeah.
conducted. I am not worried
So,
about it.
so into that extent, you actually think the all alignment or the multi alignment of what Ambassador Sinha calls neutrality is working, and it's actually working well. That India is kind of wanted at all of these
Barkha,
forums
just
to,
one
yeah,
30 seconds of addition. Let us compare with the comparables. Where is India Russia, India US relations? Where is India? Where is US Pakistan relationship? There is no comparison between the two. One is a constructive relationship. One is a relationship to contain damage. So I think we are overreacting. I am not too worried about it.
okay, General Dua, as sort of someone who's had to lead soldiers to battle, how do you see it? I've seen some commentary saying that the F-16s will now be more combat worthy against India. In principle, of course, there's been a cynicism that why has this been done at all? There's been some very, very intriguing, and I will ask Oleksandra about that later, transfer of ammunition through Pakistan, including by Pakistan ordnance factories to the Ukrainians, even while their civilian establishment cozies up to the Russians. So, if you were to join the dots between all of these seemingly contradictory developments, how would you see it, General Dua?
Barkha, I think I tend to agree with Ambassador Vishnu Prakash because, for instance, this is an old deal. They are what the Americans are giving them is spares to maintain their old F-16. They're not giving them any new hardware, so to say. So, and this must be very contractual things. It's not that they have to give them lifetime support. What happened in between was when President Trump was in power, he cut all military aid to Pakistan. Now, in view of that, military aid to Pakistan was choked from US, as it were. But today, this thing, their package for $450 million package for F-16 comes at a time when all these dots that you're talking about are being connected. As far as Pakistan transfer of ammunition to Ukraine is concerned, well, that is between two different countries, and I don't think we need to read too much into it. Will it affect us militarily? Sure, it will, because I mean, F-16s are going to be used, are arrayed against us, against India, and it will. But the F-16s are already there, and they are only going to be maintained better, not upgraded. Then we in the meanwhile, in the recent years, we've acquired so many more platforms. We've acquired Rafael. We've got our own platform. So I personally don't see this as something earth shaking. And I would like to end with the comment with the, I agreeing with, again, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash said, our relationship with US goes is much deeper today and is much more substantive than the relation between US and Pakistan.
And Pakistan. Okay, let's now look at the elephant in the room. The Ukrainians have put up a stellar sort of resistance to the Russian aggression, and in the last few weeks, we've actually even seen some commentary about a possible Russian defeat. That possibility, at least, is open. If that were to happen, will India be accused of being on the wrong side of history? Some have already made that point. Others have argued that India has to act from its own national interest. Oleksandra, if I may bring you in now from Kyiv, give us a sense of what's happening on the ground and what it's looking like and how you think this is going to throw up new choices, maybe for a new world order.
This war have several dimensions, and I will start with military one. For last several days, Ukrainian army withdrawn Russian army from Kharkiv region and liberate a lot of territories which was previously for 6 months under Russian occupation. And now we see the horrible picture of new war crimes which emerged, which was done by Russians during the occupation on this territory. And just to you to understand what I'm speaking about, I will tell you about the very famous photo of the basement where Russians tortured and killed civilians. And in this photo, in this basement, you can see that someone made a prayer by his or her hand. I don't know who was done this, in a wall. And this is a symbol of horror which Russians do on the occupied Ukrainian territories. So Russia on the military dimension started to win, and in response, Ukraine started to win, and in response, Russia started to use more visible terroristic methods against Ukrainian population. Immediately after, when Russians were withdrawn from the Kharkiv region, they attacked by Russian missiles the electric power plant. And the whole city, Kharkiv, where before invasion 1 million people live, deprived from electricity, water, and heating. And Russians told that it's only a beginning, and they will intentionally attack another objects of critical civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. So we are expected for a long battle in military way, but this war has also a value dimension. And I would like to focus on this dimension as well, because in this war, Ukrainian people fighting for a right not to be a Russian colony and for rights to have a democratic choice how to build and develop our country. And in this regard, we ask for support from other democracies of the world. And now we see that a democracy in the world united and imposed a lot of pressure to Russia with using different kinds of sanctions. And soon or later, this accumulative effect of sanctions will damage Putin's regime. And we will be very grateful if India will be active in this process also.
Yeah. And obviously, the Ukrainians have been somewhat disappointed with the position that the Indians have taken thus far, though Ambassador Sinha, of course, this position has been constantly shifting. It's been nuanced over the last few months. But I want you to come in on two things. I know that these dots are seemingly contradictory, but I'm still trying to find patterns here. One, we want to play pictures of ammunition that has been unloaded in Ukraine with the stamp of Pakistan on it. And there's a sense that the Pakistan Army chief, has been almost taking a different approach, from the civilians who may, we saw Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan meeting with Putin today. So there's that. And then there's the debate over how India will or should evolve, particularly given how well the Ukrainians have actually done to defend themselves. You have, I know, in the past also argued that you believe we took the wrong position. Do you still think that?
For all this
Oh,
6 months,
hang on, Oleksandra. That's for Ambassador Sinha. Ambassador Sinha, let's bring you in. Yeah.
Barkha, Pakistan has this ability to play both sides. You recall in 1971 when it was a bridge between America and China. So America has had the ability to go along with America and China. And in this particular case also, I think Pakistan is now moving on the same lines, where Pakistan is becoming a conduit for supplying weapons to Ukraine. While at the same time it maintains relations with China, with Russia, of course, it fortunately does not have such good relations. But in this particular case, what Pakistan is now trying to do is to make itself useful to America as a conduit, both in terms of supplying some ammunition and perhaps some weapons also, and for which America would happily give its blessings to Pakistan. We don't have the full picture before us. We don't know how many weapons are being supplied by Pakistan, but Pakistan is quite capable of doing a thing like this, where Imran Khan could go to Washington, to Moscow, and then its army is supplying weapons to Ukraine. And Pakistan has done this before. In the case of the Afghan war, Pakistan made itself a platform for America to fight the Soviet Union. So Pakistan is quite capable of doing this. And in this process, Pakistan takes advantage of strengthening its own defenses and its own strike capabilities against India. Now, I know that Pakistan is much weaker than India. We are much stronger than Pakistan, and we can deal with any threat that Pakistan presents to us. But that does not mean that we should lie low, or we should keep quiet when a country like America, with whom we are improving relations and which wants to improve relations with us, we should go soft on it, or we should keep quiet. We must make known our objection that we do not like this, whether it is contractual obligations or otherwise. There's no reason why America should strengthen Pakistan's air capabilities. It's not required for dealing with terrorism from Afghanistan.
But of course, that transfer of technology will only embolden the voices in India that actually said, "Good, we didn't take an unequivocal position on the Russian aggression," right, Ambassador Sinha? That's actually what will be said, maybe in a simple-minded way today.
Yes, that's precisely what I said, that this actually strengthens the anti-American lobby in India, and we have all had a knee-jerk anti-Americanism in us. We have gone through our last 50, 60 years. It's very easy to find fault with the Americans and then go soft on countries like Russia or China and condone whatever they are doing. Now, with China, for example, China is our inveterate enemy. There's no doubt about it. China claims Indian territory. It has not yet given up its claim to any of these territories. So we just have to look for a situation where China today, its eastern front with Taiwan and Japan is live. It wants to neutralize its backyard, which is India, and therefore it wants to, it has made this gesture of withdrawing from PP15, and perhaps it will make one or two more such gestures, but that will be entirely tactical to ensure that India remains neutral at this time when China's relations with America are very tense.
I want to come to Ambassador Vishnu Prakash in a moment, but Oleksandra, the Ukrainian military has often spoken about how it needs ammunition. From our perch, we're watching this very bizarre sort of contradiction of ammunition coming through Pakistan, sometimes from Pakistan's ordnance factories, while its stated position is, of course, to try and cozy up to the Russians. Can you shed any more light on this, on where all you're getting ammunition from in Ukraine?
I would be honest, I'm not military expert, I'm human rights defender, but all of us as civil society found ourselves in very weird position, because when the Russians started occupied Ukrainian territory after 24th of February and killing civilians, and any legal mechanism are not be able to stop them, me and other colleagues started to apply to democracies in the world and asking them to provide Ukraine weapons to defend our territories, weapons to defend our freedom, weapons to defend our civilian population. And because these weapons are provided by democracies and with different bureaucratic and others requirements, this process is under the light of a lot of high-profile state authorities. So I think that it's very difficult to make violations when you have the process under such great importance and
Right.
with a lot of light on them.
Okay, I guess war does throw up very peculiar circumstances where normally pacifists like yourselves are now writing, as you said, to democracies all over the world saying, give us weapons. Ambassador Prakash, I come back to India's options. How does India walk a tightrope between the Quad and the SCO? How do you sort of walk or sail with the Americans and the Japanese and the Australians on the one hand, and the Russian and the Chinese at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization? How do you do it? Does
because
this all alignment work?
because we are good diplomats, because we can handle both and we can work with both. I frankly, Barkha, I'm not being sarcastic. I do not see a contradiction at all. I don't see any tightrope walking at all. I think that what we are doing is to pursue our national interests. We are very clear that our future lies with the West. That is where the relationship we are building on. We have also an important relationship with Russia, and we want to have if possible, a non-antagonistic relationship with China. So that is what we would like in a multipolar world. Whether it happens or not is a different matter, but we are pursuing that. A few other bits which I would quickly like to comment on. One, as far as the supply of some munitions from Pakistan to Ukraine is concerned, my understanding is that, by the way, Ukraine and Pakistan has the old defense relationship, and Pakistan had imported tanks, Russian tanks, through Ukraine, and they are manufacturing certain spares and certain munitions, I believe, in Pakistan. It is those munitions and spares which are perhaps going to Ukraine. So again, that is the reason, because US now does not need Pakistan to route the weaponry, since they are doing that directly and openly. So that is point one. As far as India's position, or India being on the right side or wrong side of history, again, I'm a little puzzled as by this phraseology, because India has neither been neutral nor supported US or Russia. All that
Mhm.
India has done is not to use the Western language. And we have ourselves said what we have to say. And we have, without condemning Russia openly, we have expressed our displeasure, or our happiness, when we talk of maintaining sovereignty, territorial integrity, etc. We are by no measure condoning what Russia has done. So being on the wrong side or right side of history, I don't think is very much is valid as far as I am concerned. And again, in terms of the F-16, we have a right to express concern. We have expressed concern, which RM has done already.
Yeah, General Dua, let's bring you in. Ambassador Prakash is sanguine. He says that this is not actually walking a tightrope. There is actually no grave diplomatic tussle. Yes, there's a very serious conflict with China, which is a military conflict, a land dispute. There's a very serious conflict with Pakistan. But in terms of any pressure on India to choose sides in this churning global order, there's none. Do you agree? And I know you tweeted a very interesting picture. Before you actually respond, I just want to bring up that picture. This is a time when there was a rare picture, as you said, with Pakistan and China's military heads and yourself. These moments have also happened in our past. Can we just bring up that picture again as General Dua speaks? General Dua, go ahead.
Uh, I'm sorry. Uh, this picture is about the exercises that we did under SCO, Ages of SGO, in 2018. So
Yeah.
I had visited that place. Now, what this picture shows, in a sense, is, excuse me, I beg your pardon. So, in multilaterals like this, in exercises like this, what are we trying to do? We are just trying to build up interoperabilities between militaries. And this, as a part of SCO, in that picture as it's shown, the Indian and Pakistani armies had for the first time conducted an exercise together. Now, you cannot sort of read too much into this, but the fact remains that in such multilateral groupings, such so-called strange things may happen. What are we doing with SCO today? We are today we are discussing SCO, but on the other hand, when we were exercising in the quadrilateral arrangement, the Quad, and you remember that time it was China saying the same things to us. They did not want India to get too much into with the Western alignments in the Quad. So while we are exercising on one hand with this, on the other hand, we are also exercising with Japan, Australia, and the US. So if we have today, I think India is perhaps being recognized as a country that is going to play a little more role in international affairs, or at least in the regional affairs. So we are seeing India balance itself between SCO and Quad and the Quad, so to speak. So it only shows our heft. Whether it is going to be a NAM 2.0 or not will remain to be seen. But I think it was non-aligned, and this is actually issue-based alignment.
As I said, it's also being described as from non-aligned to multi-aligned, non-aligned to all-aligned. I do have to close. Ambassador Sinha, quick last word, since you are the one person, unlike General Dua and Ambassador Prakash, who believes that this neutrality might trip us. Where are your concerns? Just to understand, where you think this might trip us before we close.
Well, first on the SCO. In the SCO, we are now holding joint anti-terror exercises with Pakistan. On the other hand, in the Security Council and in the FATF, we are telling the world to impose sanctions on Pakistan. So I don't know what kind of policy this is. In the case of China, we are holding joint military exercises with Russia and China, and our armies has the confrontation with China. We are ensuring that there should be enough fuel for our troops in the winter months in Ladakh. In the case of the policy towards China, I only hope that the kind of our non-alignment had led in 1962 to being isolation when China attacked India. I hope we don't have that same situation when the situation comes to that point now, or in a few years.
Well, that's a very different and a kind of grim perspective from the other two Indians. Oleksandra, of course, speaking as a proud Ukrainian. Varied perspectives always on this program, but the bottom line is this: diplomacy is the art of the possible, but history too is a chronicler of the positions you took. Just as we remind the Americans, you didn't come to our side when Pakistan was inflicting 1,000 cuts. Every country does look out for themselves, but also looks to see who's in their corner. So we leave it there. As they say, watch this space, and there are many different multiple spaces to watch. Thank you, Ambassador Prakash, Ambassador Sinha, General Dua, Oleksandra, as we look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, and India balancing Russia, China on the one hand, and the Americans in the Quad on the other. Thank you to our audience. See you later. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.